Kai had always loved exploring new worlds. He was part of the human exploration fleet, traveling to distant planets to map their terrain and study their creatures. This time, he found himself on Aurelis, a planet far from Earth, with forests that glowed faintly in purple and blue at night. The air smelled different, a mix of minerals and sweet flowers. He adjusted his helmet and stepped carefully over the mossy ground. The planet was quiet, but not empty. Strange sounds echoed between the glowing trees. Some sounded like birds, some like insects, but others were harder to identify. Kai had been warned about predators, so he moved slowly, keeping his sensors on. His mission was simple: map the terrain and collect data on the local wildlife. He did not expect to meet anything, or anyone, that would change his life. As he walked, Kai noticed faint tracks in the soft soil. They were small, with 3 toes, and they moved quickly in different directions. Curious, he followed them. The tracks led him to a clearing, where sunlight filtered through the glowing leaves. There, he saw something that made his heart beat faster. 3 small creatures were trapped under a large fallen branch. Their bodies were tiny and fragile, covered in soft scales that shimmered in the sunlight. Their eyes were wide, filled with fear. Kai did not hesitate. He ran to the creatures and tried to lift the branch. It was heavier than he expected. He pushed with all his strength, sweat running down his face, but it would not budge. He looked around and found a large rock. Using it as leverage, he pressed against the branch. Slowly, with grunts and effort, the branch moved just enough for him to pull the creatures free. They tumbled onto the ground, shaken but unharmed. Kai panted, but relief washed over him. He knelt beside them, checking their small bodies for injuries. They were scared, but alive. One of them, the smallest, crawled onto his hand and looked up at him with bright, intelligent eyes. Kai felt a strange warmth in his chest. Then he noticed her. Standing at the edge of the clearing was a large alien. Her body was taller than Kai, her skin shimmering with soft colors that changed with her movements. Her eyes were big and gentle, yet filled with caution. She watched him closely, her stance protective. The creatures he had saved ran toward her, chirping softly. She lowered her head to nuzzle them. Kai froze. He did not want to scare her, but he also could not leave the clearing. He raised his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. The alien tilted her head, observing him. He could feel her intelligence, her awareness. She did not speak, but he understood her message clearly: she would protect her young at all costs. Kai spoke softly, though he doubted she could understand him. I didn't want to hurt them. I just wanted to help. He pointed to the small creatures, letting her see that they were safe. She blinked slowly, and for a moment, Kai felt that she understood. He looked around. The forest was alive with movement. Birds with glowing feathers flew above, and small creatures scurried between the trees. The air vibrated with the hum of life. Yet the mother alien remained focused on him. She was patient, calm, but he could sense her strength. Kai knew he could not take the young with him. They belonged to her, and he respected that. He stepped back slowly, giving her space. One of the creatures chirped and ran toward him, as if to thank him. He smiled and waved gently. The mother watched carefully, then gestured with her hands. The light on her skin glowed in a pattern, and the young creatures followed her lead, returning to her side. Kai had no idea what the gestures meant, but he understood the meaning. She was warning him, teaching him something without words. She was showing that trust could be earned, and that he was under her watch. He nodded, silently agreeing to respect her rules. As he turned to leave, he heard a faint sound behind him. It was a cry, but not of anger or fear. It was a call, soft and melodic. He looked back and saw her standing a little closer, the young safe by her side. She had not followed him, but she had made her presence known. Kai felt a shiver run down his spine. This encounter was not over. Kai returned to his exploration pod, but he could not stop thinking about the creatures and their mother. He recorded all his observations, noting the glowing patterns on her skin, the intelligence in the eyes of the young, and the protective behavior of the mother. He realized that Aurelis was full of life, and some of that life was far more advanced than humans had expected. That night, Kai could not sleep. He looked out at the purple forest from his pod window. The trees shimmered in the starlight. Somewhere in that forest, the mother alien and her young were safe, and he had been part of their story. A part of him wanted to return, to understand them better, but he knew it was risky. Humans were not always welcome in alien worlds. The next day, Kai returned to the clearing. He wanted to see if she would allow him closer. This time, he moved with more care, remembering her warnings. The young creatures were playing, chasing each other and leaping between roots. The mother watched from a distance, her glowing patterns brighter than before. Kai approached slowly, kneeling to the ground to seem smaller and less threatening. The mother did not move, but her eyes followed him. He reached out gently, showing his empty hands. One of the young creatures crawled toward him, and he smiled. He spoke softly, naming them in his own language, Luma, Tico, and Nari. He did not know if they could understand, but naming them made him feel closer to them. The mother watched, and for a long moment, neither moved. Then she stepped forward slightly, not threatening, but testing. Her light patterns shifted, and Kai realized she was trying to communicate. He could not understand the words, but the feeling was clear, she was curious. She was cautious, but not angry. Kai knew that this moment marked the beginning of something important. He had risked his life to save the young, and now he was being observed by a being far older and wiser than him. He felt respect and awe. This was the first step in a story that would change his life forever, and the life of those small, shimmering creatures. The forest around him seemed to hum with anticipation. Kai took a deep breath and prepared himself. He had no idea what the alien mother would do next, but he knew one thing: he was ready to face whatever came, for the sake of the young he had saved. The next morning, Kai woke before sunrise. The forest outside his pod glowed faintly in shades of purple and blue. The air was cool and still, carrying a faint scent of flowers and minerals. He thought about the alien mother and her young. He could not shake the feeling that their story was far from over. Kai decided to return to the clearing. He prepared his small exploration kit, carrying water, food rations, and a few tools he thought might be useful. As he stepped out of his pod, he noticed subtle movement in the forest. Leaves rustled, shadows shifted, but there was no sound of heavy footsteps. He moved carefully, mindful that the mother alien might be watching. When Kai reached the clearing, he saw the young creatures playing near a small glowing stream. They were leaping and chirping, their small bodies moving with surprising speed and grace. The mother, whom he had come to think of as Luma, stood at the edge of the clearing. Her shimmering skin reflected the morning light, and her eyes followed him with calm alertness. Kai knelt slowly, keeping his hands visible. He wanted to show that he meant no harm. One of the young, Nari, approached him cautiously, sniffing his hand. Kai smiled and extended his palm, letting her touch it. Luma watched closely, her body tense but not aggressive. Kai tried to communicate. He had learned that she responded to gestures and light patterns. He pointed to himself and then to her, hoping she would understand that he wanted to be friends. Luma tilted her head, and her skin shimmered in soft waves. Though he could not understand her language, he felt that she was sending him a clear message: she would observe him, and he must respect her space. Kai nodded. He understood that this was a warning. Luma was not trying to scare him, but she was making rules. He needed to be careful. He decided to move slowly, studying the creatures and their mother, learning their behaviors and habits. As he took notes, he noticed movement in the trees beyond the clearing. Shadows flitted quickly, almost like ghosts. He paused, listening. A faint rustle came from the underbrush, followed by soft clicks. Kai's heart raced. He realized he was not alone. From the shadows emerged a group of small, aggressive-looking creatures. Their eyes glowed red, and their teeth were sharp. They moved quickly toward the clearing. Kai recognized them from his scans. They were predators, drawn to the young aliens. He took a step back, raising his hands. The predators froze for a moment, studying him. Luma stepped in front of her young, spreading her arms wide. Her skin glowed brightly, sending waves of color across the clearing. The predators hesitated, and Kai realized that her display was a warning. She was telling them to stay away. Kai quickly scanned the area. He could not let the predators harm the young. He grabbed a small device from his kit, one that emitted a bright light and loud sound. He activated it, and the noise startled the predators. They growled and retreated slightly, unsure of what was happening. Luma's glow intensified, and she moved forward with powerful steps. The predators, sensing her strength and Kai's interference, finally turned and fled into the forest. Kai exhaled deeply, relief washing over him. The young creatures chirped happily, running back to their mother. Kai approached Luma slowly, kneeling again. He spoke softly, though he knew she could not understand his words. "I am here to help. I will not let anything hurt your young." Luma's glow softened, and she tilted her head. He felt that she understood. A bond was forming, fragile but real. For the next few hours, Kai observed the family. He watched how Luma cared for her young, teaching them to move quickly and stay safe. The creatures were intelligent, learning from every movement, every warning. Kai realized that their survival depended on both instinct and guidance. He took careful notes, fascinated by their behavior. As midday approached, Kai noticed signs of another presence. Tracks led to the clearing, larger than the predators before. His sensors detected multiple energy signatures approaching from different directions. Kai's heart sank. He recognized the signs immediately: a rival species, dangerous and likely to capture the young aliens for their own purposes. Kai knew he had to act. He turned to Luma, gesturing toward the forest paths and the tracks. She watched carefully, tilting her head and shifting her glow. He could see understanding in her eyes. Together, they had to protect the young. Kai ran toward the nearest cluster of glowing trees, setting small traps and obstacles along the paths. He used stones, branches, and his own devices to create barriers. Luma followed him, using her size and strength to block potential entrances. The young creatures hid behind roots and rocks, chirping softly. When the rival aliens appeared, Kai and Luma were ready. The intruders moved quickly, their eyes glowing with determination. Kai used his devices to create flashes of light, confusing them. Luma's glowing body emitted waves of energy that pushed the intruders back. Together, they formed a protective barrier around the young. The battle was tense but brief. The intruders, realizing they could not easily take the young, retreated. Kai and Luma watched them disappear into the forest. The young creatures emerged slowly, chirping with relief. Luma nuzzled them gently, her glow soft and warm. Kai looked at her and understood something important. She was more than a mother. She was a protector, a teacher, and a guide. By saving her young, he had entered a world of responsibility and trust. He could not leave now. The bond was real, and it demanded respect. As evening fell, the clearing glowed under the faint light of Aurelius's moons. Kai sat quietly, observing the family. Luma moved among her young, teaching them to climb and leap, while Kai recorded everything. He realized that he had much to learn from her, not only about survival but about courage, loyalty, and care. Kai understood that his presence here was no longer just exploration. He had become part of a story larger than himself, one that involved trust, bravery, and the protection of innocent life. He knew the challenges ahead would be greater, but he also knew he was ready. The sun set, casting long shadows across the glowing forest. Kai packed his notes and prepared for a night in the clearing, careful to respect Luma's space. He could feel her watching him, a silent acknowledgement of his intentions. He slept lightly, knowing that tomorrow would bring new lessons, new challenges, and perhaps, a deeper connection with the alien mother and her young. Kai's heart was full of determination. He had risked his life once, and now he would face whatever came next to ensure the safety of those who had no voice but their trust. In the quiet hum of the forest, he knew that the adventure had truly begun. Kai woke to the soft glow of Aurelius's morning light filtering through the trees. The forest was quiet except for the soft chirps and calls of the alien young. He looked at Luma, the mother, who was gently nudging her children awake. Her shimmering skin reflected hues of gold and green, creating a calming warmth that filled the clearing. Kai smiled softly. Over the past 2 days, he had learned more about this family than he had in months of exploration. He had seen how Luma taught her young to move quickly, to sense danger, and to hide when necessary. He understood that this mother's intelligence and patience were remarkable. Kai approached carefully, holding his hands open. The young creatures chirped in recognition, running to greet him. Nari climbed onto his shoulder, while Tico and Luma circled nearby. Luma watched, her glowing patterns gentle but watchful. Kai knew he had to show respect. He sat on the ground and extended his hand toward Luma, offering water. She tilted her head, then slowly moved closer. Her glowing skin shifted in soft waves, a signal of trust. Kai realized that small gestures were the key to their communication. He could not speak their language, but he could understand intention through actions. For hours, Kai observed Luma and the young. He mimicked some of her gestures, pointing to objects and then to himself or to them. He learned that the young responded better when he moved calmly and predictably. Luma seemed to approve, tilting her head and emitting soft patterns of light that bathed the clearing. Kai began teaching small skills to the young creatures. He showed them how to climb over fallen branches safely and how to move quietly without making unnecessary noise. They were quick learners, their bright eyes following every movement. Kai could feel a growing bond forming between him and the young. They trusted him. Luma watched closely. Sometimes she would approach Kai and nudge his hand or shoulder. Other times she would position herself between him and her young, testing his reactions. Kai realized she was assessing his patience, his respect, and his courage. Each moment he remained calm and careful strengthened her trust. As the day progressed, Kai noticed that the forest around them was alive with motion. Small creatures scurried in the underbrush, and glowing birds flew overhead. He understood that Luma's lessons for her young were also lessons about awareness. Every movement mattered, and every sound could indicate danger or safety. Kai decided to explore a little further, taking only what he needed and leaving markers to find his way back. Luma followed him at a distance, her glowing skin constantly shifting to convey alertness. Whenever he reached a small stream or clearing, he stopped and gestured for her to observe. He wanted her to understand that he was not a threat, that he respected her territory and her family. By midday, Kai had discovered a series of small caves and natural hiding places in the forest. He realized that these spots could be used by Luma and her young for shelter or safety in case of predators. He returned to the clearing and pointed toward the caves, then to the young, and finally to himself. Luma's skin pulsed with bright colors, a sign that she understood his message. Kai felt proud. He had begun to communicate in a way that went beyond language. Trust and intention were universal. He spent the afternoon showing small tricks to the young creatures, like how to jump across roots and balance on low branches. Luma watched from nearby, sometimes stepping in to guide them herself. The teamwork felt natural, as though they had been partners all along. Later, Kai prepared a small meal from his rations. He offered some to Luma, holding it in his open hand. She hesitated at first, then approached cautiously and accepted the food. He smiled. Sharing sustenance was another way to build trust. The young creatures chirped and ate alongside him, creating a moment of peace and connection. As the sun began to lower in the sky, Kai noticed signs of distant movement. Shadows flickered between the trees. He immediately thought of the predators from the previous day. He signaled to Luma, pointing toward the direction of the movement. Luma responded by positioning herself between Kai and the young, her body glowing brighter as a warning. Kai realized that danger on Aurelis was constant. Even with Luma's protection, they could not ignore threats. He decided to teach the young a new skill, how to hide quickly and silently in the underbrush. He showed them by crouching low, moving slowly, and using the natural camouflage of the forest. The young copied him, their small bodies melting into the shadows. Luma watched carefully. When the exercise was complete, she emitted a soft hum and touched each young creature gently with her glowing hand. Kai understood that this was her approval. The young had learned, and she recognized his efforts. A wave of satisfaction filled him. Night began to fall, and the forest glowed with soft purple light under the moons of Aurelis. Kai and Luma sat quietly near the stream, watching the young play and rest. He realized how much he had come to care for them. Saving their lives had been only the first step. Now he was learning the true meaning of responsibility and loyalty. Kai spoke softly, though he knew Luma would not understand the words. "I will protect them. I will stay by your side, as long as you let me." Luma shifted her glow and nudged his shoulder gently. It was the closest thing to a reply, and Kai felt its weight in his heart. The bond between them was growing stronger with each passing hour. As he prepared for the night, Kai reflected on what he had learned. Trust was earned through patience and action, not words. Strength was measured not only in courage but in care for those weaker than oneself. And connection could form across species, through shared experience and mutual respect. Kai settled down near the clearing, careful to leave space for Luma and her young. He could feel her watching him, even as he closed his eyes. Sleep came lightly, interrupted by soft sounds of movement and gentle hums. Yet he felt safe. He knew that he was no longer just a visitor in this forest. He had become part of a story larger than himself, one that involved trust, bravery, and the protection of innocent life. Kai's heart was filled with purpose. He had come to Aurelis to explore, but now he was learning the meaning of family, of loyalty, and of courage that crossed the boundaries of species. He knew challenges would come, but he also knew that he would face them with Luma and the young at his side. The bond they shared was growing, and it would guide them through every danger and discovery ahead. The next morning, the forest of Aurelis was alive with sounds of movement. Birds with glowing feathers flitted between trees, and small creatures scurried in the underbrush. Kai had slept lightly, keeping one eye open for any sign of danger. He had learned that life on this planet, though beautiful, was never without risk. As he stepped out of his pod, he noticed Luma standing at the edge of the clearing. Her skin shimmered in bright colors, signaling alertness. The young creatures played nearby, chirping and tumbling over roots. Kai smiled, but he knew that their safety could never be taken for granted. Kai began his daily observations, noting how Luma guided her young through the forest. He had learned to recognize her gestures, the subtle shifts in her glow, and the sounds she made. These were her ways of teaching both her young and him. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly. Kai froze. He scanned the trees with his sensors and saw movement in the distance. Shadows darted between the trunks, faster and more coordinated than ordinary predators. His heart pounded. He knew immediately, this was a rival species. They were drawn to the young, rare creatures like Luma's children, and would not hesitate to capture them. Kai raised his hand slowly, signaling to Luma. She responded immediately. Her glow intensified, shifting into patterns that Kai now recognized as warnings. She positioned herself in front of the young, her massive form a protective barrier. Kai felt a surge of determination. He had helped them once, and he would not let danger take them now. The rival aliens emerged from the forest. They were larger than the predators Kai had seen before, with sharp claws and glowing eyes that scanned the clearing. Their movements were calculated, almost tactical. Kai realized that he could not fight them alone. He needed to work with Luma, to use both human ingenuity and her strength to protect the young. Kai quickly scanned the clearing for obstacles. Fallen branches, uneven ground, and glowing rocks could all be used as defenses. He picked up a small device from his kit that emitted flashes of bright light and a loud sound when activated. This, combined with Luma's glowing body and strength, might be enough to hold the intruders at bay. The rival aliens advanced. Kai activated his device, sending a burst of light and sound toward them. They hesitated, snarling and growling in confusion. Luma stepped forward, her arms wide and glowing brightly, sending waves of energy that pushed the intruders back. Kai marveled at her power, but he knew it was only a temporary defense. Kai moved quickly, setting traps along the forest paths. He placed stones in unstable positions, tied vines to branches, and created small obstacles that could slow the intruders. Each move had to be precise. One mistake could mean disaster. The intruders tested their way forward, stepping cautiously but still moving toward the young. Luma stayed close to them, guiding them away from danger while keeping the rivals at a distance. Kai worked alongside her, coordinating his efforts with the signals she gave. They were becoming a team, their movements instinctive and synchronized. The first intruder reached the edge of the clearing. Kai triggered a trap, and a rock fell, narrowly missing it but startling it enough to step back. Luma glowed brighter, her body creating a barrier that forced the intruder to retreat slightly. Kai and Luma exchanged a glance. They were working together, and the bond they had built was their greatest weapon. The battle continued for hours. Kai's devices created flashes and sounds to confuse the intruders, while Luma used her strength and glowing energy to block their path. The young creatures remained hidden, safe behind roots and rocks. Each time an intruder tried to advance, Kai and Luma reacted quickly, using the terrain and their combined skills to protect the clearing. Kai realized that he was learning more than survival. He was learning patience, strategy, and trust. Luma did not give orders in words, but her guidance was clear. He followed her lead, adapting to the rhythm of her movements, and she, in turn, responded to his ingenuity. Together, they created a defense neither could have managed alone. Finally, after what felt like hours, the rival aliens retreated. They had realized that capturing the young was impossible without extreme risk. Kai and Luma watched them disappear into the dense forest, their glowing eyes fading with distance. The clearing was quiet again, the soft chirps of the young returning as they emerged from hiding. Kai approached Luma cautiously, kneeling beside her. He reached out, offering water and touching her gently. She responded with a soft glow and a gentle nudge. It was a sign of approval, a recognition of the bond that had been strengthened in the heat of danger. The young creatures ran to Kai, chirping excitedly. He smiled and hugged them gently. He realized that courage was not just about facing danger, it was about protecting those who could not protect themselves. Luma had shown him that strength and care could coexist, and the trust between them had grown stronger through the challenge. As evening fell, Kai prepared a small meal for himself and offered some to Luma. She accepted, her glowing skin calming as she sat near him. The young gathered around, chirping softly and nuzzling each other. Kai watched them, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. They were safe, and their trust in him was growing. Kai knew that the danger of Aurelis was far from over. Other predators or rival species might return, and he would need to remain vigilant. Yet he also understood that he was no longer alone. Luma and the young were a part of his life now, and he was a part of theirs. The bond they shared would guide them through every challenge, every obstacle, and every threat. Kai lay down near the clearing, careful to leave space for Luma and the young. He looked at the glowing forest around him, marveling at its beauty and danger. Sleep came lightly, interrupted by soft rustling and gentle hums, but he felt safe. He had learned the power of trust, courage, and cooperation. The threats of the world were real, but so was the strength of connection. As he drifted to sleep, Kai thought about the future. He would face many more dangers on Aurelis, but he would do so with Luma and the young by his side. Together, they had survived the first true test of teamwork and courage. He knew that their bond had grown stronger than ever, and that nothing could break the trust they had built. Kai's heart was full of purpose. He had come to Aurelis as an explorer, but he was becoming a protector, a teacher, and a friend. The challenges ahead would be great, but the bond with Luma and her young would guide him. In the quiet glow of the forest, he knew that together, they could face anything. The morning sun painted the Aurelis forest in shades of gold and violet. Kai stepped lightly through the clearing, careful not to disturb the young creatures who were already playing near the glowing stream. He had grown accustomed to their chirping and laughter-like sounds, and they had grown accustomed to him. A bond stronger than words connected them now. Luma stood nearby, her glowing skin shifting in patterns that Kai had learned to understand. Today, her glow was brighter and more focused. She had been observing him closely over the past days, testing not only his courage but also his care, patience, and respect. Kai approached slowly, keeping his hands visible, as he always did. As he knelt before her, Luma stepped forward, lowering her head toward him. The glow of her skin pulsed in a rhythm Kai had not seen before. He realized it was a signal, one that carried meaning beyond simple observation. She was communicating something important. Kai raised his hand slowly and touched the ground, a gesture of respect. The young creatures gathered around him, chirping softly and pressing close to Luma. Kai understood instantly that Luma's message involved them. Saving her young had not only earned her trust but had also created a connection that could not be broken. He felt the weight of responsibility settle over him, heavier than any physical danger he had faced. Kai tried to speak softly, using the same words he had used before. "I only want to help. I will protect them." Luma's glow brightened, pulsing with patterns that seemed to confirm understanding. She moved closer and placed one glowing hand gently on his shoulder. The sensation was warm and reassuring, yet filled with authority. Kai realized this was her way of claiming him not as ownership, but as acknowledgement. He felt a mixture of surprise and honor. In Luma's species, acts of courage for the protection of the young were sacred. By risking his life, he had entered their family. He was no longer a visitor, an observer, or even just a friend. He was part of their circle, entrusted with their care. The realization filled him with both pride and determination. Luma guided him toward the young, who watched with bright, curious eyes. She nudged each one gently, then motioned toward Kai. He reached out carefully, letting the small creatures touch his hands and shoulders. Nari climbed onto his arm, chirping softly. Tico and Luma's own little gestures reinforced the connection. Kai smiled, feeling a sense of belonging he had never experienced among humans. The forest around them seemed to quiet, as if acknowledging the moment. Even the birds with glowing feathers and the small scurrying creatures paused, creating a calm, protective atmosphere. Kai realized that Luma's bond with the forest was deep and ancient. Her presence alone seemed to shape the energy of the world around her. Kai spent the day learning more from Luma. She led him to different parts of the clearing, showing him how to recognize signs of danger, how to read subtle movements in the underbrush, and how to understand the rhythm of life on Aurelis. Each lesson was not spoken but demonstrated. Kai followed carefully, learning the language of gestures, light, and behavior. By midday, Kai had learned how to move silently through the glowing forest, how to anticipate the movements of small creatures, and how to protect the young without startling them. Luma watched each attempt, her glowing skin shifting in approval or gentle correction. The trust between them deepened. Kai realized that this was more than training, it was the beginning of a lifelong partnership. As the sun began to lower in the sky, Kai noticed faint tracks at the edge of the clearing. His sensors indicated energy readings, but they were distant. He immediately thought of previous dangers, but Luma's calm presence reassured him. She had claimed him, not in a way that limited him, but in a way that shared responsibility. He felt the weight of this gift. Kai knelt beside the stream, allowing the young creatures to climb onto him and explore safely. Luma positioned herself nearby, her body glowing softly in the evening light. He felt the connection between them as if it was a physical force, binding them together. He understood that he was no longer alone. Protecting the young was now his mission, as much as it was Luma's. Later, Luma led him to a small grove filled with natural shelters. She showed him how to use these spaces for rest, observation, and safety. Kai realized that she was teaching him not only survival but the rhythm of life in her world. Her young learned quickly, mimicking both Luma and Kai's movements. The bond between all of them strengthened with each shared moment. Kai spoke softly, looking at the young creatures. "We will stay together. I will help you learn, just as Luma teaches you." The young chirped, nudging him as if they understood. Luma's glow intensified, her gestures confirming that she recognized his promise. In this moment, Kai felt the full meaning of being claimed not as ownership, but as acceptance into a family built on trust and courage. Night fell on Aurelis, and the forest glowed under the moons. Kai settled near the clearing, giving space to Luma and the young. The gentle hums and soft rustling of the forest created a calming background. He thought about the days ahead, knowing that danger would return, but also that the bond he shared with Luma and her young was stronger than fear. Kai understood that courage was not measured by fighting alone but by standing beside those who needed protection. Trust was not earned in words but in actions, and loyalty was shown through patience, care, and respect. Luma had claimed him in a way that required him to grow, to adapt, and to rise to the responsibility he had willingly accepted. As he closed his eyes, he felt the warmth of connection, a sense of belonging that filled his heart. The bond between him, Luma, and the young creatures was unbreakable. He was part of something larger than exploration, larger than himself. Together, they were a family, ready to face whatever challenges awaited in the glowing forests of Aurelis. Kai knew that the adventures ahead would test him, that threats would come, and that the lessons would continue. But he also knew that he would not face them alone. Luma had claimed him, and in doing so, had given him purpose, connection, and a home among creatures he had once only sought to observe. As the night deepened, Kai felt a sense of peace. The forest glowed softly, and the young rested near Luma. He knew he was ready for the days to come, ready to protect, learn, and grow alongside them. The bond they shared was a promise of courage, trust, and unity that would guide them through every trial and every discovery on Aurelis. The morning on Aurelis was cool and quiet. Kai woke to the soft glow of the forest, feeling the hum of life all around him. Luma was already awake, moving gracefully among her young. Her glowing skin shifted in gentle waves, and the young chirped softly as they played near her. Kai felt a sense of calm, but he knew that today would be different. Luma approached him slowly, her skin pulsing in bright, focused colors. She did not speak in words, but Kai understood her meaning. Today, he would face a trial. In her species, acts of courage and protection were tested through challenges. Luma's way of teaching and bonding with those who protected her young was ancient, and Kai had been chosen. He followed Luma to a clearing deeper in the forest. The trees were taller here, their glowing leaves forming a canopy that filtered the sunlight. In the center of the clearing were large rocks arranged in patterns, and strange markings glowed faintly on the ground. Kai recognized these markings as part of the trial, a series of tasks designed to test patience, courage, and understanding. The young creatures chirped excitedly, watching him from a safe distance. Luma nudged Kai gently toward the first task. He saw a narrow path leading through thick underbrush, with unstable ground and hidden roots. His first challenge was clear: navigate the path without harming the environment or startling the young creatures nearby. Kai stepped carefully, placing each foot with precision. He moved slowly, observing every detail. Luma followed him closely, her glow guiding him and warning of unseen obstacles. Halfway through the path, a loose rock shifted beneath his foot. He adjusted quickly, maintaining balance, and continued. The path tested his patience, his attention to detail, and his ability to remain calm under pressure. At the end of the path, Kai found the second task. A shallow stream separated him from a glowing platform on the other side. The water was filled with small, fast-moving creatures that reacted to any disturbance. He needed to cross without harming them or causing panic. Kai scanned the stones and found a stable path. He stepped carefully, testing each stone before placing his full weight on it. Luma's glow shifted as he moved, a silent guide and support. Kai reached the platform safely. He looked back at the path and stream, realizing that every decision he had made affected the environment and the creatures within it. This trial was not just about courage, it was about respect, understanding, and harmony with life. Luma's approval shone in her glow, and the young chirped excitedly, as if celebrating his success. The third task was more challenging. Luma led him to a series of tall rocks, arranged in a jagged pattern. At the top of the highest rock was a small glowing object, a symbol of achievement in the trial. Kai needed to climb, relying on both his strength and intelligence. He carefully assessed the rocks, finding handholds and footholds. The climb was exhausting, testing his endurance and determination. Halfway up, a gust of wind rattled the rocks. Kai held tightly, adjusting his balance. He looked down and saw the forest floor far below. His heart raced, but he remembered Luma's lessons. Courage was not the absence of fear, it was moving forward despite it. Slowly, steadily, he reached the top and touched the glowing object. A warm pulse of light filled the clearing, signaling success. Kai climbed down carefully, feeling a sense of accomplishment. Luma's glow intensified, radiating pride and approval. The young ran to him, chirping and nuzzling him. He realized that this trial was not only about proving his bravery but also about demonstrating care, patience, and respect. Each task had strengthened the bond between him, Luma, and the young. The final task awaited a test of understanding and protection. Luma led him to a section of the forest where shadows moved mysteriously. Strange, large creatures appeared, not aggressive but curious. Kai had to guide the young safely through the area without alarming the creatures. This required careful observation, timing, and quick thinking. Kai signaled to the young, showing them where to move and when to wait. Luma stayed nearby, her glow warning them of potential dangers. He led the young through narrow paths, across soft moss, and around strange glowing plants. The creatures in the shadows watched, sometimes moving closer, but Kai remained calm and careful. One wrong step could have caused panic, but he trusted Luma's guidance and his own growing understanding. After what felt like hours, Kai and the young reached the edge of the area safely. Luma's glow brightened dramatically, her approval undeniable. She moved toward him, placing a glowing hand on his shoulder. Kai felt warmth and pride, knowing he had succeeded in the trial. He had shown courage, patience, and respect, and had protected those who could not protect themselves. The young chirped and nuzzled him, their trust and joy clear. Kai realized that this trial had not been about him alone, it had been about connection, understanding, and the responsibilities of care. Luma had tested him, guided him, and now recognized him as a true protector. Kai knelt in the clearing, feeling a deep sense of belonging. Luma's glow shifted softly, a silent message of respect and acceptance. He understood fully that he was now part of this family, bound by trust, courage, and care. The trial had strengthened not only his bond with Luma and her young but also his own understanding of bravery and loyalty. As the sun began to set, the forest glowed under the moons of Aurelis. Kai helped the young find safe resting spots, guided by Luma's light and gestures. The creatures settled around her, chirping softly, while Kai watched with quiet satisfaction. He realized that this moment was more important than any discovery he could make on Aureli's. Kai spoke softly, looking at Luma and the young. I will protect you. I will stay with you. I understand now what it means to be trusted and to care. Luma's glow brightened once more, and she nudged him gently, a silent acknowledgement of his promise. Night fell, and the forest shimmered with bioluminescent life. Kai lay near the clearing, feeling the presence of Luma and her young. He reflected on the trial, on the challenges he had faced, and on the lessons he had learned. Courage, patience, respect, and connection were more powerful than any weapon or tool. He understood now that true strength came from caring for others and protecting those who relied on him. Kai closed his eyes, listening to the hum of the forest and the soft chirps of the young. He felt a sense of peace and belonging that he had never experienced before. The trial was complete, but the journey was just beginning. He had proven himself, not only to Luma but to himself. He was part of their family, and together, they would face every challenge that Aureli's had to offer. Kai woke to the soft glow of dawn on Aureli's. The forest shimmered in shades of purple and gold, and the air was filled with the gentle hum of life. Luma was already awake, moving gracefully among her young, who chirped softly as they played near the glowing stream. Kai felt a deep sense of belonging. He was no longer just an explorer, he was part of their family. Today, however, felt different. Luma's glow was brighter and more focused, signaling urgency. She nudged Kai gently and gestured toward the forest beyond the clearing. He understood immediately today would test the strength of their bond one final time. A challenge awaited that would require courage, trust, and quick thinking. Kai and Luma moved together through the forest, the young creatures trailing close behind. The trees grew taller and denser, and the glowing leaves filtered the sunlight into shifting patterns on the ground. Kai noticed signs of recent movement, broken branches and displaced stones that hinted at the approach of a large predator. He signaled to Luma, and her glow pulsed in response. Together, they prepared for the encounter. Suddenly, the predator emerged. It was massive, larger than any creature Kai had seen on Aureli's, with dark scales and glowing eyes that pierced through the trees. Its movements were deliberate, testing the boundaries of the clearing. Kai's heart raced, but he remained calm, remembering the lessons from the trial. Luma positioned herself between the predator and the young, her glowing body radiating a warning. Kai knew he had to act strategically. He moved toward the predator, activating his device to emit bright flashes of light and loud sound. The predator hesitated, momentarily distracted. Luma advanced alongside him, her energy creating a barrier that pushed the creature back. The young huddled behind roots and rocks, safe under their mother's watchful eye. The predator lunged, testing their defense. Kai used quick thinking to create a diversion, causing small rocks and branches to fall in the path of the predator. Luma's glow intensified, and she moved with precision, guiding the young to safer positions while maintaining pressure on the threat. Kai realized that their teamwork had reached a level of instinctive coordination. Every movement complemented the other, and the predator struggled to find an advantage. After tense moments, the predator retreated into the forest, recognizing that the family was protected by a combination of strength, strategy, and intelligence. Kai and Luma watched it disappear, and the clearing fell silent once more. The young creatures emerged cautiously, chirping softly, and Luma nuzzled each one gently. Kai felt a profound sense of relief and accomplishment. Luma turned to Kai, her glowing skin pulsing in warm colors. She approached him and placed her hand gently on his shoulder. It was a gesture of recognition, gratitude, and trust. Kai understood fully that their bond was no longer fragile, it was complete. He had proven his courage, patience, and loyalty, and Luma had claimed him as part of her family. Kai knelt down, letting the young climb onto him and explore safely. He smiled as Nari, the smallest, chirped against his chest. Tico and Luma's young nudged him playfully, and he laughed softly. The forest around them seemed to respond, the glowing leaves shimmering as if celebrating their unity. The day continued with lessons and exploration. Luma showed Kai new parts of the forest, hidden paths, and natural shelters. She demonstrated how to observe without disturbing, how to sense danger before it arrived, and how to move in harmony with the environment. Kai followed carefully, absorbing each lesson, knowing that their survival depended on understanding this world fully. By midday, Kai and Luma led the young to a small clearing near a glowing waterfall. The water sparkled in soft blue light, creating a calming atmosphere. They rested there, and Kai shared some of his food with Luma and the young. She accepted, her glow shifting in soft waves, and the young chirped excitedly as they ate. It was a moment of peace and connection, a reward for the challenges they had faced together. As evening approached, a soft hum filled the forest. Kai recognized it immediately. It was a sign from other members of Luma's species, distant but aware of the events in the clearing. Luma's glow pulsed in acknowledgement, and she turned to Kai. He understood her meaning. They had not only survived but had proven themselves worthy in the eyes of her people. Kai felt a surge of pride. He had come to Aurelis as an explorer, but he was leaving that role behind. He had become a protector, a teacher, and a family member. Luma's claim was not one of ownership but of acceptance, and he cherished it deeply. The young creatures nuzzled him as if sensing his emotions, and he realized that love and trust could transcend species, language, and worlds. Night fell, and the moons of Aurelis bathed the forest in gentle light. Kai prepared a small resting area near the clearing, careful to leave space for Luma and the young. He watched as Luma settled among her children, their bodies glowing softly. He felt warmth in his chest, a sense of belonging that went beyond words. Kai spoke softly, though he knew Luma would not understand his words in the human sense. I am yours, and I am theirs. I will protect, guide, and stay with you. We are family. Luma's glow pulsed gently, and she nudged his shoulder. The message was clear, she accepted him fully, and their bond was sealed. As he lay down to rest, Kai reflected on the journey. He had risked his life to save the young, faced predators and rival species, endured the trial of courage and patience, and now stood as a full member of this unique family. Every moment had been a lesson in trust, loyalty, and bravery. He understood that true strength came from connection, not conquest. Kai drifted into sleep, comforted by the presence of Luma and the young. The forest hummed around him, alive with the quiet energy of life on Aurelis. He knew that challenges would come again, but he also knew that together, they could face anything. Courage, care, and trust were stronger than fear, and the bond they shared was unbreakable. When he awoke, the forest glowed softly under the moons, and the young were already at play. Luma's glow illuminated the clearing, shifting in patterns that Kai had learned to read. He smiled, feeling a sense of purpose and unity. Today, tomorrow, and every day after, he would walk beside them, protecting, learning, and growing together. Kai had come to Aurelis as a human explorer, but he remained because he had found a family, a purpose, and a connection that transcended worlds. He had been claimed by Luma, not in ownership, but in trust and acceptance. He had risked his life for her young, and in return, he had been given a place in their hearts. As the sun began to rise on another day, Kai looked at the forest around him, at Luma, and at the young creatures playing nearby. He felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that he had found something far more important than exploration or discovery. He had found home, family, and a bond that would guide them through every challenge, every danger, and every adventure on the glowing planet of Aurelis. Kai smiled and whispered softly, "We are together. Always." Luma nudged him in response, her glow warm and steady, and the young chirped around them. The forest echoed with life, harmony, and the unbreakable connection between a human, an alien mother, and her young. Together, they faced the future, stronger, braver, and united.